Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Dublin Tech Talks. As always, we're brought to you with the support of Icon Accounting. Icon is a leading provider for all sorts of services for professional contractors on the island of Ireland. Today I'm joined by Sandra Healy. Sandra is the founding director for the DCU Centre for Excellence in Diversity and Inclusion. She is also the CEO of Inclusio. So Inclusio has been spun out from DCU and essentially is a platform developed by technologists and psychologists in DCU, which provides a behavioral science and psychology-based platform to allow organizations to adopt a more data-driven approach to their company culture. So really keen to talk to Sandra about this. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for joining us today. So we've had a quick look at the Inclusio product overview. Just by way of an introduction about yourself, do you want to tell us how you've ended up here with this product?
Yeah, thanks, David. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share our Inclusio journey today. So I suppose very briefly, I spent 22 years in the tech industry working across the UK and Ireland. My background is technical engineering, and I've done everything from pre-sales consulting into senior leadership roles, then in sales and customer delivery and customer experience in Vodafone. In parallel to that, I studied psychology, and then I did a master's in organisational psychology. So that's kind of my connection to DCU. Mm-hmm. And I've been involved in diversity and inclusion for probably about 13 years now. So initially I was involved in establishing the EU Diversity Charter in Ireland. And I'm currently on the Citizens Assembly Expert Advisory Group for Gender Equality. So how the idea came about is when I was in industry, all the work I did had KPIs, mm-hmm. So whether it was sales, customer delivery, customer experience, and here I was doing this very meaningful voluntary work, and there was no way to evidence the impact and the return on investment for the organization. Mm-hmm. And so I remember having many lengthy coffees with my L&D colleagues when I was in Vodafone saying there has to be a better way for us to do this. And in fact, I was on my way to a female founders program, and I was kind of interrupted in my discussion then with DCU about coming in to lead on their as head of diversity and inclusion for the university. So as it happens, then we agreed that we would work together on bringing Inclusio to the market. So 4 years in the making, and here we are. We just spun out last week. So yeah,
great. Well, look, really exciting time. And I guess did when you looked around, clearly, if you had that feeling that, more data, better insights, would help, demonstrate the value to the business, perhaps a little more, maybe get better investment. You looked around, and was there just literally nothing out there that could do this properly?
No, and that's the thing, that there isn't really anything to measure diversity and inclusion and culture, and particularly the people aspect of culture. There's different ways to, I suppose, culture is discussed and thought about when it comes to organizations, but really how we describe what we do, it's the people side of the culture. And when I think about diversity and inclusion, and I get asked all the time, what's my definition of it? And when I think about diversity, I describe it that, each one of us are individually different. And when I think about inclusion and inclusive workplaces, that's really around environments where everybody can be their authentic selves and that they have an opportunity to be themselves, to be valued for the contribution that they bring to the business. But from a business perspective, what it does then is enables the organization to get people to kind of row in behind the mission of the organization. But that's the problem, right? That's also the problem because, diverse teams, there's reams of research that shows that diversity in organizations and in particular diverse teams are more innovative, they're more productive. But the challenge becomes inclusion, right? How do you create that kind of welcoming environment as the organization becomes more diverse? How do you create an environment where you get the best out of each individual? And that's quite complex. So you can understand why it hasn't been solved up to now. It has taken, quite a significant amount of investment and 4 years within the ecosystem of a university, tapping into the best experts from many different, so for example, from organizational psychology, from UX, UI design, and from data analytics. It really has taken the ecosystem of the university to bring this to the market.
And do you think was that the kind of secret sauce in all this, that you were able to draw on like really, really deep expertise in those fields to make sure that, you know, the vision and mission of the product was embedded in science and data?
Yeah, and I suppose the secret sauce was the idea in my head, right? So if I think about my background, you know, so my background is quite unique in that, you know, I was a graphic designer many years ago. I moved from graphic design into tech and into technical engineering. And in parallel to that, then I was studying psychology, involved in, you know, diversity and inclusion, and then into higher education and building a strategy and taking an organization along a transformational journey. So I think for me, it's, you know, I was able to put all those pieces together. But within the university, what's been absolutely phenomenal has been able to tap into that expertise. Because, you know, I suppose when I think about the idea that I had before I came into the university, it wasn't as deep as what we've actually managed to create. So so it's been a combination of both, I would say, the vision. And I have to say, it's been an absolutely phenomenal journey for me as an entrepreneur, having something that's in my head and actually seeing it physically working now. You know, that's a very unique journey, I would have to say. Yeah,
massively rewarding. So, do you think one of the challenges that businesses face is that there's no cookie cutter approach to this, right? It's very unique to, like, the principles, the underlying principles, of course, remain the same, but it's different for each business how they might go about that. Do you think that the platform gives a kind of a baseline, you know, tool and an engagement platform to be able to find your own way through what's right for your business? Or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think, like, a lot of the work, I would do a lot of work and have done over the years with many different organizations around D&I, you know, and they can be at various stages. They could be advanced, they could be, you know, just starting off. And one of the things I always say to companies is, you know, that you can't pick a D&I strategy off a shelf and think it's going to apply, because you can't, right? We're talking about people, we're talking about human beings, right? And back to that point about everyone being individually different, you know. So really, for diversity and inclusion to be something that's sustainable and integrated and mainstreamed across the organization, really what you need is a plan that is within the context of your organization. So it takes into consideration everything from the structures, from from an environmental perspective, you know, are you distributed workforce? Are you all in the same location? You know, what are the demographics of the workforce? You know, what's the core mission and the values? All of those things have to be baked in when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And what we do and what Inclusio does is something that's different, right? So what we do, it's through the collective voice of the people in the organization. And we do that in a safe and secure way, right? Because before we did any work on Inclusio, we spent 2 years in the research side of things, getting a sense of, you know, what were the barriers to culture, diversity and inclusion in organizations. And from the people on the ground, what did they say are the barriers? And some of the feedback we got is that, you know, people don't feel comfortable disclosing personal things about themselves to their employers, you know, for fear of, well, you know, is that going to have a negative impact on my career, particularly if, you know, they're in the minority. So that's quite an interesting thing. So that kind of got us thinking about, right, there has to be another way to do this. So we, you know, we have very deliberately created Inclusio as a third-party system that sits outside the organization. And it is the collective voice and the continuous collective voice of the people that drive the culture. So, for example, when it comes to the data collection, you build your profile. That's yours. It's personal, but that is combined with others and then presented to the organization. So you're not exposed in any way. When I think about culture contribution, so the individuals get an opportunity to contribute to the culture, to signpost to the organization what it is they would like to see changed or what it is they would like to be better. And the AI engine learns about the individual within the context of their team to drive the manager development and to help the manager build their capacity to be a better leader for the team. And that's really important. And, you know, it is the kind of 360 view of the human in work. So the system learns about the individual. It learns about the individual within the context of their team and their interaction with their manager, and also the individual within the context of the environment. So it seems quite complex, But we've combined psychology and behavioral science in a novel way, and that makes it really intuitive and easy to use from an individual perspective.
Because I guess that can be a challenge, right? Organizations can have an abundance of caring, but there's no action. So just having a mechanism to feed that through in a way that's going to provide really targeted and specific actions and development outcomes for people. I guess that there's real value in that, right?
Yeah, and that's essentially what it's about. I suppose we start out, from the premise that organizations want to build workplaces that support people. We start out from the premise that, individuals genuinely want to contribute to the organization being a better workplace and being a better organization. So what we've done is just created a way for both to communicate with each other. And like the first report, so what we do for the organization is we've built analytic dashboards. And on the first report, we describe that as kind of your baseline. So that gives the organization insights into, what interventions do we need to make here? So it's not just about inclusio interventions, right? It's about, but what interventions do they need to make themselves? And I think that that's really important that, and us as experts, obviously, within inclusio as well, to be able to kind of signpost and give the organization some guidance around, well, how do you solve that problem quickly? Because a lot of the, the challenges out there at the moment is, organizations have been trying to do this for years. Like engagement is a big business and certainly has become a big business over the last 5 years. But, this line and this, checking in once a quarter or checking in, every once a year, it just doesn't cut it. And how inclusio is different is it is that continuous. It's the continuous feedback, the continuous input. So there's a constant shifting and moving towards that inclusive culture.
Kind of brings me on to the next consideration. You mentioned your graphic design background. I don't know if that featured in this, but it looks like you've paid a lot of attention for how people engage with it. It's not trivialize it by saying gamified to a degree and very engaging. Was that clearly it was a deliberate process there? But what was your thinking behind that? Was it just to keep people coming back?
Yeah, well, for me, and from the outset, and certainly as I brought the team together, we had one mission, and that was to build software that people want to use. That's intuitive, it's easy, it makes sense. And, I would like to be able to say that I had the full influence of the design of it, right? But, one of the things we did, like we have some phenomenal trial partners that have been working with us over the last 2 years. So, for example, we've engaged with user groups in PayPal, in Sodexo, in AIB, in Allianz. And what we did is, as we worked through the different iterations of the software, we went back and tested to get feedback. And Finergo, actually, we've been working with recently as well. And that's been absolutely fantastic because what we're doing is getting feedback from people on the ground that are saying to us, we'll tweak that there, make that a little better there. And that has really helped us, I think, build a tool that's really easy and intuitive. I think one of the things for us that was really important is from an accessibility perspective. So two aspects of that. One, we're a diversity and inclusion platform. We need to be accessible and make sure that everybody has the opportunity to give their input. But the second piece was from a flexibility perspective. You could be sitting on the bus on your way into work when we can start getting on the buses again to go into work. You could be sitting down, taking 5 minutes out to have a coffee and plug your headphones in and have a listen to a podcast or watch a video. Like we wanted it to be like that this is something that empowers, that it's something that people get to do, not something they have to do. And that's not really what we want Inclusio to be about. So.
Gotcha. We, in my dealings with a lot of early stage companies, it's, getting this right and having a plan and a strategy is often something it's kind of left, until the business gets a bit of maturity. So it's never too early to get this in place. And, do you have to be a big organization with lots of money and lots of resources to have practical and measurable, mechanisms for making sure that you're on track?
No, and I suppose maybe it's just the way I go about things. Like for me, what gets measured gets done. I think you have to have a plan. Like I think one of the things I've certainly had more of an appreciation of throughout my entrepreneur journey is that, you know, it's one thing having an idea, but it takes a hell of a lot of effort to bring that to make that, to actually create something, you know. And I think, you know, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs, and I would say even myself in the early days, I thought the idea was the whole thing, right? And it's not the whole thing, right? Because the idea is nothing until you get the team together, you get the plan laid down, and you actually, it takes a lot of hard yards and a lot of hard work to actually make it, to create something. For me, and certainly for the team, we've just recently gone through an EIC application, you know, which is essentially mapping down the 10-year strategy for Inclusio. That was grueling exercise over the summer. But you know what, it was absolutely fantastic for us, right? Because it made us, you know, shift beyond our thinking and take it out into that 5 years to 10 years. And, you know, it's helped us then kind of document that kind of innovation strategy, the R&D strategy, the global scale, you know, so, and it brings it into a reality in a sense, you know, there's certainty, you know, the track you're on, we know what direction we're going in, and we have the whole team behind that, you know. So I would say, you know, I'm kind of interrupting myself in my head at the same time, right? Because the business plan, you know, like every time I think I have a business plan written, I'm redoing it, right? There's another bit going in, you know. So you know, you have to have your base set of documents, I would say, right? Your base documents that you can pull together, no matter who you're speaking to. So if it's an investor, you're able to pull your documents together. You know, if it's you know, doing something like this, that you're able to, you know, pull it together. I don't think you have to have a plan, I suppose. Short answer, you absolutely have to have a plan. Does it have to be in the format of a business plan? Not necessarily, but you absolutely have to have your plan documented.
But getting that, excuse me, getting that right from the start as you build out your culture is a lot easier than, you know, having a culture then that you need to revisit and perhaps adapt, would you say?
Yeah, and I think like I was interviewed on the stage at SaaStock actually last year, right? And I can't remember now. He was a US entrepreneur, multi-millionaire. You know, he was talking about how difficult it was to find women. You just can't find women in tech, you know. And I just said, absolutely no way. Yeah. I said, you have to change where you look. You know, and I don't think that there's any excuse, right? I don't think there's any excuse for companies to say that, you know, diversity comes a little bit further down the line, right? Yeah. Because all the research, there is reams of research out there that shows that diversity is the multiplier for innovation. It's the multiplier for sustainability, you know, and it's not something that you attend to further down the line. Absolutely. So what I would say is change where you look, you know. So if you're used to going, like what I did to build my team, and I have people from all over the world, and I have a gender balanced team, and I'm 100% committed to that. We need that. We need that type of innovation. Yeah. But what I did was, like I went to events, like mentoring events in the evening, where I'd go and I'd be a mentor, and I was meeting women in tech. That's who I was meeting, you know, and in some cases they were women who had huge amount of skills, right? And were on different kind of visa categories, and maybe were doing different jobs and had left really good tech jobs in other countries, just looking for an opportunity here. And that was phenomenal for me, because it allowed me then to build and bring together the team of experts that I have now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard work. You can't be passive in terms of your strategy, but it absolutely can be done. And then I know this year has been a challenging year for a lot of established programs or people looking to get things going, just, you know, challenges around investment from the business perhaps. So although things have stepped back, do you think that with changes in how we work and you know, the flexibility that now might be available, will that have an impact to, you know, perhaps go some way to addressing that balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think, like, you know, there's a couple of things I suppose COVID has kind of brought to our door, right? One is the kind of blending between our lives and work. And, you know, before we used to have a challenge around how do we balance our home life and our work life, right? And now what's happened with COVID is they've become one, you know, where you could be on on a video and you have your dog barking or the doorbell going or your kids coming in, you know, so, and we're starting to see that. So in one way is it's actually, I certainly think it's quite a positive thing, right? Because it's brought more of a human side to us, you know, and everyone, male, female, doesn't matter who you are, everyone is dealing with the same kind of level of challenges now. So it's been a bit of a leveler, I think, from that perspective. I think the challenge is going to be when we start getting back to the workplace. You know, what are employers going to do? Because like we're never going to return to the way it was because some companies have had to downsize. We're probably going to be social distancing for quite a while. So which means, you know, that freedom that we might have had of walking around the office, you know, we might be on A and B teams and different kind of schedules. So I don't think we're going to go back, but I do certainly think there's a real opportunity here for companies now to create a workplace where people want to work that supports us through every aspects of our lives. Like one of the things I would say when I'm doing my D&I talks, you know, we are working in organizational structures that were designed in the 1950s, right? Where the woman stayed at home and the man went to work, and it was 9 to 5 and everybody travels at the same time. You know, like we need to start shifting away from that. And this, I see COVID and the getting back into the workplace after COVID is a real opportunity.
I'm a pragmatic optimist by nature, so I'm on the same page as you with that one. Hopefully it will.
Very good.
But Sandra, it's been really interesting. I guess just if people are looking for, you know, a platform like yours, and you know, what's the profile of customer? How would people go about reaching out to you and exploring, you know, getting involved with the platform?
Sure. Well, I would say, look, we're on LinkedIn. Get in touch. Our website, so www.inclusio.io. You'll find all our profiles are there, and you can get in touch with us there as well. It's an enterprise user license. The organizations that we're working with at the moment we've some public sector organizations. We also have kind of large corporates. We have some financial services organizations. But look, what I would say is, you know, we describe ourselves as a social enterprise, right? Our plan is to always be grounded in academic science. Ideally, what we'd like to be able to do is get to the point of where, you know, we can start onboarding SMEs and startups. That's really where we want to get to. So I would say we're only at the beginning of our journey. So what I would say is get in touch, follow us, you know, and we'll be in a very different place this time next year, and we'd love to have you as part of the journey. So yeah, get in touch.
Well, look, very best of luck with it all. It's a really exciting time just seeing that first step out on your own. So look, we're all behind you, and best of luck with it. Thanks very much, Sandra.
Great. Thanks, David.
Thanks again, Sandra. And as always, folks, if you want to keep track on our content or virtual meetups, you can join our meetup group on meetup.com, Dublin Tech Talks, or you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. So we will see you again shortly with more insights. Thanks.